West Asia conflict may be entering a dangerous new phase. Tehran claims America is launching HIMARS rocket strikes against Iran from bases in the Gulf. Our next report tells you more.
The battlefield is expanding. The U.S. is ramping up its firepower against Iran. Pentagon chief says that the attacks are systematically destroying Iranian missile facilities, and vows that the attacks are only going to increase.
Iran stands alone, and they are badly losing. One, destroy their missile stockpiles, their missile launchers, and their defense industrial base. Missiles and their ability to make them. Two, destroy their navy.
These images released by US CENTCOM show HIMARS in action in a desert area. It claims the multi-purpose rocket launcher can provide unrivaled deep strike capability in combat against Iran. However, the US military has not disclosed the location of the launch site. On March 1st, just a day after the war began, US released similar images. The CENTCOM claimed it is conducting precision strikes at targets linked to Iran, though it fell short of admitting its use of HIMARS. The estimated range of the HIMARS system is roughly 300 to 500 kilometers, depending on the type of missile. While the US hasn't officially said which base it is using to launch these ground-based missiles, experts say the US is using bases in the Gulf states to deploy rocket artillery systems against Iran. The systems could have been positioned along the southern coast of the Persian Gulf, where several US military bases are located. Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has accused US forces of using the territory of Iran's neighbors to launch attacks against the country. He has defended Iran's retaliatory attacks on US bases in the Gulf countries. The move by the US is in complete contrast to previous assertions by Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The Gulf neighbors of Iran had vowed that they would not allow their airspace or territory to be used for military actions against Tehran. Iran has repeatedly warned that any US assets used to launch attacks against Iranian territory will be considered legitimate targets. Tehran vows to continue its fight against Israeli and American aggression.
The enemy has waged war against Iran and against the Iranian people. The enemy has not come to fight an ideology. It has come to wage war against Iran.
US President Trump says the war will end soon while threatening to hit Iran harder.
A lot of work, a lot of brilliant work, but we're going to have a much safer world as soon as it's finished, and it's going to be finished pretty quickly.
If Trump's threat materializes, US bases across the Gulf and the nations hosting them could find themselves on the front line of a widening regional war. The West Asia conflict is entering an increasingly volatile phase, where every launch could trigger the next escalation. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
For more on this, we're now being joined by Nader Hashemi, Associate Professor of Middle East and Islamic Politics at Georgetown University. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says that today will mark the most intense day yet of U.S. strikes on Iran. At the same time, President Trump says that the war may be over soon, while warning that more strikes are possible. What signal is Washington sending?
A very confusing signal, but this is very much par for the course when it comes to the Trump administration's prosecution of this war. It's been characterized and defined by incoherency in terms of the reasons why this war started, the objectives, and the conditions that can bring it to an end. So this is nothing really new. My own reading of what's happening is that Donald Trump has lost control of the war. He was under the illusion that Iran was Venezuela and he could pull off a Venezuela-type operation where the head of state could be killed or assassinated, and someone like Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela will appear in Iran and strike a deal with Donald Trump. That's clearly not happening. And so I think we are still going to see more war in the coming days and weeks.
Mr. Hashemi, Tehran accuses the U.S. of using Gulf bases as launch sites to target Iran. Are they talking about other places in these Gulf countries that are not U.S. bases stationed in these countries? And what could be the possible repercussions?
Well, I think from Iran's perspective, they're hitting at these bases and countries in the region as a way of trying to shift the imbalance in power that favors the Americans and the Israelis. This is what's called asymmetric warfare. Iran can't match the firepower of its adversaries, so it's trying to create a disruption in terms of the regional order and the global economy. That's where Iran has leverage. And so these countries are in one way sort of parties to the conflict because they are allied with the United States and increasingly over the last several years with Israel. So there is a strategic sort of relationship that these countries have with the United States that is bombing Iran. Now we're seeing, according to your report, that they're actually firing directly from these bases onto Iran, which will give Iran, I think, more incentive to hit back. So, you know, that's how I read it. There's this phrase that political scientist Robert Pape has used called horizontal escalation. That's what Iran is trying to do to shift the balance of power in its direction, and it suggests that as long as it continues to do that, this war is far from over.
And do you find it odd that we haven't seen the new supreme leader or heard of him, or hasn't issued any kind of statement since being appointed as the new supreme leader?
If he doesn't make a public appearance fairly soon in terms of a video recording or statement, then yes, questions are going to start to be asked about his status, his health. There's these rumors circulating that he was injured. Now, part of this could simply be an attempt to keep him safe and secure, given the assassination of the previous supreme leader and 50 top Iranian generals. So yes, I think there's the longer this plays out, the longer he doesn't make an appearance on video, people are going to start asking the obvious question: where is he? Is he in good health? And if he is injured, well, that's going to be a big blow to the Islamic Republic because they appointed someone who's the supreme leader who isn't in good health. That would be, I think, an ideological and psychological blow to supporters of this regime in Tehran.
All right. Well, Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thanks.